Hi all, and welcome to Cosmic Voice again on this Wednesday evening. Tonight we have Tanaath, Sunfire, and Drake with us, and I'll hand you over to them to say something. Hi.
Hello.
Howdy.
Okay.
Seems
Anyone
like we're on
want
the
to say?
same wavelength tonight, Drake.
Yeah. Anyone want to say anything before we go to the questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
Only this doesn't have anything to do with this show. I'd like everybody who disagrees with the idea of poisoning somebody with biological weapons or use of chemical weapons and burning somebody's stuff up to internationally, each and every last one of you who disagrees with that idea, get in touch with our present administration and say, we also disagree. Please. That's all I got.
Okay. Right, we'll head straight into the questions. First question, has the website issues today been resolved?
I heard there was some website issues. I did not witness these firsthand. Keep in mind, I'm now working out of the home, so I don't get a chance to check up on everything. I'm able to pull it up on both Firefox and Chrome, so it seems that they have been resolved now. These were issues with the client. Both Tolek and I are using the same client for our host. So, yeah, it's when Homestead goes down, there's really not much we can do about it except for wait for it to come back up.
Okay. Next question. Can you explain the structure of Galactic Federation of Planets, Silver Legion, Andromeda Council, and any other organization involved in the group or the overall group?
For information
please.
on the Andromeda Council, please go to Tolek's website, www.andromedacouncil.com. He does discuss a little bit about the structure of the Andromeda Council on that site, so we're not going to repeat that, especially since that's his area of expertise, not ours.
Okay.
Sunfire, do you want to talk a little bit about the Galactic Federation of Planets?
Yeah, the Galactic Federation of Planets is a interstellar management group or management organization, basically managing the interstellar trade and relations between its member planets. It is the lead organization in the liberation forces. Currently, current focus is, of course, here Terra and the surrounding area, but mostly Terra, or whichever you want to call it. And we're proud to have the Silver Legion as one of our independent members. And I think that's your right there.
I did talk quite a bit about how the Silver Legion is organized on my show with Robert Stanley. The archives for this are available on my blog. If you check it out, you'll be able to find the link and go download that. But to give a brief recap, we're organized in two ways. We are organized by division, where each division, the members handle specific different types of functions, and these can be listed on the website as well. And the other way that we are organized is by varying units of varying size. For instance, our smallest unit is a fire team of about 3 members. After a fire team, we have a squad, which is usually 5 to 10 members. Then we have platoons, companies, and so on and so forth until we get into even larger divisions and breaking up and refinements of our troop size. And that part of the organization, what that is for, is when we are deciding how much ass-kicking to throw at a problem. If it's just a little problem, we might send a fire team. If it's a big problem, we might send several companies or larger. If we start getting into battalions, then it's a really, really big problem. Fire teams, squads, platoons, all of these things are made up of people from different divisions, so they're not usually all the same division. What this allows is for different types of problem solvers to be working on a same team together. They can watch each other's butts, they can shore each other's weak points up, and strengthen each other and work synergistically. We do have some teams that are formed of specific division types working in concert, and sometimes even a sole division. These are all specialist teams. In addition, we have people who aren't necessarily assigned to a particular team, and these are most often found in our science and research and development areas. They might not necessarily have a division, and they might not necessarily have a team, but they're still an integral part of the Silver Legion, and sometimes they do get involved in the butt kicking as well. In terms of our leadership and organization, we have a group of commanders, most of whom I've mentioned at different points in time, that work together, of which I'm one. And then each division has a general and several sub-generals that help organize those divisions, see to the training of those divisions, and communicate between those divisions and the higher command. We don't have a very hierarchical structure. All command means is more administration and paperwork and planning. Most people in the Silver Legion do not want to be command stream. They would much rather be involved in the actual butt-kicking itself. In fact, we had one general who said, "I'm only going to be a general during times of war because all this paperwork is annoying." So she's a wartime general.
I mean, I just wanted to touch a little bit more on the structure of the Federation. I was thinking about it. You were talking about the Silver Legion, and I'm like, wait a minute, maybe I should elaborate a little further here. There is a Federation Council, and then also kind of similar to the Silver Legion, there's various different divisions throughout the Federation. The Federation does have its own military, its own intelligence, its own different groups and stuff, and or different divisions anyway. And they are, for the most part, only supportive elements to its member planets. There are full members, and then there are junior members, and then we also have independent members, which gives the opportunity for an individual person or an individual group, like, for example, the Silver Legion, they're considered one of our individual members because even though they have planets and all, they have their own planet and they have their own realm and all this other stuff, they have their own structure, and they have all the different, divisions and stuff, and they're able to operate independently, but because we like each other, we decided to join forces kind of thing. And then, every planet, every member planet has its own military and its own other, elements and stuff. But overall, the focus on the Federation, the focus of the Federation is peaceful and diverse trade and, across the galaxy.
Mutual defense, too. Yeah, and the Silver Legion was granted a planet by the Federation, and we currently take the role of the military special forces or elite forces for the Federation. And the thing about this is, because we don't hail from any particular planet, we aren't at risk of having a special interest for any particular planet at the expense of any others.
Right, okay. On to the next question. Can musicians be warriors on the astral plane? Could you give us an example of what an electric guitar player can do on the astral?
Well, sound can be used as a weapon. If anybody has ever played Dungeons and Dragons, you might be familiar with a character class of Bard. Well, such concepts do exist up there as well. There are people who use sound in order to heal, in order to help, in order to aid others, and some who also use it in order to stop the enemy from doing whatever it is doing or demoralize them. So, yeah, I don't know if necessarily they're all using electric guitars, but sound is definitely something that you can make use of.
Sounds
There's
fun, though.
multiple races even that use it, like she was saying, for, defense purposes and various other methods.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
All right, next question. If disclosure is too risky to the Terran population, then why not let the transition of the planet happen naturally? And part B, is there a specific directive required to send a message to Terrans that they can go to another Earth-like planet and stay in 3D?
Sunfire, you want to take this one?
Okay, you want to try? Can you break it up a little bit?
Yeah. If disclosure is too risky to the Terran population, then why not let the transition of the planet happen naturally?
I don't want to. Actually there is not that significant of a risk left to the Terran population as far as disclosure. What we're dealing with right now is literally there's literally things that are holding a few things up, and then once those are dealt with, then the disclosure is going to take place, and it will happen this year. And we are letting the transition happen naturally. There's nothing.
We can't stop it.
Yeah, we can't stop it. And we can't stop it. The bad guys can't stop it. Nobody can stop the transition. It's going to happen.
As I believe I spoke about, I think it was last week, these two concepts are actually not attached to each other. Transition is going to happen one way or another. Disclosure basically influences the social atmosphere and cultural atmosphere in which disclosure in which transition occurs.
And disclosure has been happening for a very long time now. I don't understand why people think disclosure hasn't happened, because we've had all the basic elements of it. As far as it not being part of the mainstream, people only need to look on YouTube. There is thousands of videos of UFO sightings being covered on mainstream news. The British Ministry of Defense has unclassified thousands of documents regarding UFOs. The FBI has declassified thousands of documents regarding UFOs. There is the Citizens for Public Hearing on UFOs and Disclosure. There was disclosure by the outgoing head of the CIA on Coast to Coast radio. There was the Press Club hearing, I think last year or the year before, which had a multitude of military, government, and other officials that disclosed their interaction with ETs and ET's connection to the government. The guy up in Canada, Hellier, he's the Minister of Defense. He disclosed the ETs and the government's interaction. The President Medvedev of Russia disclosed the ET connection to the government. So, what I'm looking at is more of a reintroduction of the population to their ancestors. But as far as people wanting disclosure, you know what? It's out there. It's already been happening. It's been happening for a long time, guys. All you have to do is look.
Yeah, and I would ask those people who are requesting disclosure to define exactly what they mean by disclosure if it's not what's currently happening.
Mm-hmm. You can add
because
to that.
It's unlikely that that desire will ever be satisfied if you continue to demand something that's already happening and refuse to recognize it.
I agree, totally.
Yes, I agree too. You can add Brazil, France, and Mexico to the list of governments who've released an enormous amount of data on extraterrestrials as well. Right, the second part of that question, is there a specific directive required to send a message to Terrans that they can go to another Earth-like planet and stay in 3D?
We're letting the Andromeda Council handle that, since that's their thing.
Yeah, so if you guys want to know about that, ask the Andromeda Council, message Tolik.
Yes.
We have no involvement in that.
Right, okay. You have said before that Thor and Merlin are members of the Silver Legion. Are there other gods or goddesses or other famous personages in the Silver Legion?
Yes, there are, including some from what you currently refer to as fiction.
Okay. Right. Next question. Can anyone talk about mitochondria or midi-chlorians? Are they a major part of this conflict? So that's mitochondria.
Midi-chlorians are from Star Wars. I can't really comment on that because, as far as I can tell, midi-chlorians were basically hand-waved into existence in order to fulfill some kind of retcon. Mitochondria, on the other hand, are basically the source of your cell's energy in your body. Every cell has a mitochondria. Mitochondria control how your cells metabolize energy and produce energy to power all of you. If you have a mitochondrial disease, it may not matter what you eat or what you do. You may always be tired and sickly and enervated and all of those things. Currently, there isn't any human tech on the planet that is publicly available that can fix a mitochondrial disease. Mitochondrial DNA is passed entirely by the mother. So if you have it, your mom does too, her mom did, and so on and so forth.
Okay. Have you heard of an organization called the Quark Alliance? Q-U-A-R-K.
Can't say I have.
Right, okay.
No.
Question for Drake. If we are going from a duality to a triality energy frequency, can you give us any layman's knowledge on the quantum mechanics of transforming from a carbon-based duality structure to the more electrically charged triality structure, please?
Oh boy.
You get all the best ones.
I'm beginning to see this. Okay. The duality from 2 to 3 is very simple. All that's going to happen is that there's going to be a completion of the basis stranding in terms of DNA. We had the third strand stolen, basically, and or turned off, and so depending on the case. And it's going to either be turned back on and or reinitiated. This has lesser to do with what you're describing than what you think. However, you have to remember first and foremost that quantum mechanics deals with harmonics, period. Whether anybody likes it or not doesn't matter. If you take the basis of written mathematical quanta and apply a third limitation to it and overrun your numerics between the limitations on 2 and the limitations on 3, you'll find that there's a correlation in both the value and the numerics that come out. Then if you combine the both of them, you come up with the number of man being 5. This goes to Gematrian understandings as well as some of the knowledge of the ancients and some physics that does not translate into anything that I know of on this planet. So what you're dealing with is a sort of kind of maybe situation with a definite outcome. Basically, yes, you're going to transition from more of a physical orientation to a more energetic formulation. In that process, this is one of the steps that will take place. They will seem to take place all at once, but there is a very definitive order in which these things take place in order to provide the best for the individual involved. So, yes, maybe, and mostly incorrect. Next.
Okay. Have any of you heard of the elf warrior king named Dzang or Dowson, apparently famous in other dimensions, and is he working with the Silver Legion?
I'm not familiar with the name myself, but that doesn't mean no. It just means that I've not heard of him consciously in this existence.
Okay. After the transition to 4D, will we have shape-shifting abilities? For instance, can I make myself look like any type of human that I want to look like?
If your home species has these abilities, then yes. Terran humans are not expected to be shapeshifters.
Interesting. Next question. I'm an avid gardener and seed saver, and I've collected a good number of seeds for the pure joy of finding and growing something new, novel, beautiful, nutritious, and tasty. Will they come along with me to 4D, and will there be any use for them?
Likely, and yes.
They're all, from what I understand, they're supposed to. The ideology of changes to the extent that we're going to go into absolutely unfamiliar territory is a myth. You're going to basically not see that much of a difference, but also at the same time see great differences. You will not necessarily lose anything that you've had before that's beneficial or advantageous, either to the entity you're dealing with, be it some kind of sunflower or whatever, let alone ourselves. So being able to be only and specifically positive in terms of the transition itself, it is best when stepping into the unknown to have a few familiar things around you to be able to relate to in order to keep your sanity balanced. One of the great reasons for the physical references we have, like furniture, houses, and things of this nature, is partly for that reason. The reason being is that you are not and are not basically physical. So therefore, you have to have an orientation if you are to act like you are. Very simple. So, you look at it, the idea of the show is to bring out the information necessary to dispel the darkness of the unknown. And hopefully everybody will understand that there will be major and great changes, but not to the extent that you will be totally unfamiliar. Okay?
Speaking of sunflowers, it's Sunfire, not Sunflower. And just because she has a high-pitched voice does not mean that she is very, very young. She is an adult.
Yes. In a previous show, Drake mentioned that a race of dragons were here in the past. Can you explain this any further? Or give us more details?
Yeah, there was 5 or 6 races that I'm familiar with, maybe more. I was a part of one of the, you could call it a ruling class, but it's not really. It's just that you're bigger, stronger, and more able, and consequently more responsible to a quote group, whether it's several races of beings or whatever. And there's been heavy inhabitation of the planet by dragons for quite some long time. However, the last small dragon, as I understand it, was shot down, let's see here, back in 2002, if I'm not mistaken. It sickened me to understand that somebody would destroy something that could be a quite beautiful individual. So, as far as bases, yes, there was organization, habitation, and things of that nature. This would be a lot clearer, or will be, after the transition, as you will see. Okay?
Yes. Were there other beings like Phoenix and unicorns here? Where did they go? Were they all killed by something, and will they return?
Unicorns were hunted to extinction, weren't they?
They were hunted to extinction along with the Unipegs and Pegasus. They're interdimensional beings. From what I understand, they will be returning after the transition. I don't know if they'll be returning before, but only after it has been made implicitly clear and accepted by the general population that these are intelligent, sentient beings and of equal status to humans. And, that's about the only time they're going to be coming back, because they need to be mutually respected just like everybody else. And they're not to be hunted.
Okay. Next question. The origin of the elongated skulls that have been found not only in South America but also in Egypt and other parts. Can any one of the three of you explain it, please?
They are the ones that are not of a tribe that is mimicking the originators come from the Sirius A system, one of the inhabited planets. I'm not exactly sure which one, but those that we see like in the pharaohs, the ones of the elongated skulls of Peru, the various tribes of the naturally elongated skulls in Africa, those all come from the Sirius A system or have a high concentration of the influence of their genetics. And that is through the various tribes around the world that make their, through all artificial methods, make their skulls to mimic, are their, what they consider their gods from the Sirius A system.
Does that include the Dogon tribe?
I believe so.
I believe they do trace their ancestry back to the Syrians, don't they? Like the Dogon mythology does. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why we see the elongated hats on the pharaohs. They had those elongated skulls because the pharaohs came into Egypt via Atlantis, but are originally from the Sirius A system.
The Dogons were explaining in 1927 there was Sirius was a trinary system, and they explained the orbits of the other two stars that we were not aware of until 1977. So if you're looking for disclosure, there it is. How did they know that Sirius was a trinary in 1927 when we didn't find it with the telescopes until 1977? They even explained the orbits. There was the they're not the normal orbits, expected orbits anyway. Right, next question.
You want another little... Yeah, you want another little piece of disclosure. Sorry for interrupting. I was going to say, if you want another little piece of disclosure, look up the Sumerian, the carvings from Sumeria. There's one that I see an image of all the time, and it's a couple of, I guess, the Sumerians or the Anunnaki, I can't remember which, and it's our sun with at least 12 planets orbiting around it.
Yeah.
And then there's carvings and cave paintings throughout the world, including inside the pyramid, of graves, of ships, of other off-worlders and extraterrestrials. All people have to do is go and watch the multiple episodes of the Ancient Aliens series. They point out extensive amounts of evidence that the aliens have been involved in this planet for at least tens of thousands of years. And quite honestly, as far as I understand it, that the aliens have been involved with this planet since it was made, geologically engineered in the Earth's major system over 7.5 billion years ago, before it was even moved here to the solar system.
Yeah, you've also got that carved tablet in Egypt with the helicopter, the submarine, the UFO, none of which what we had 5,000, allegedly, they're saying it was built 5,000 years ago, which is kind of impossible, but there you go.
Right.
So,
well, you know, the Egyptian pyramids were built more somewhere in the realm of 25 to 35,000 years ago. Another thing, you know, people want physical, hard evidence. Go research Mohenjo-Daro. It's radioactive. It was radioactive long before any modern man had access to nuclear technology.
Yeah, I think that dates back.
Research the green glass of Libya.
No.
And go pick up the ancient religious texts from the Hindus, like the Mahabharata, and research ancient atomic warfare. And look at the melted fused megalithic buildings and sites all around the world, including in Scotland.
Yeah.
Now explain those people if aliens don't exist.
Yes, well, there's a whole layer across the Middle East of nuclear fallout dating back 12,000 years, which is described in the Mahabharata and the Vedic texts. So, right. Next question. I'm not sure if you have heard of plant spirit healing. If you have, are there beings in the higher dimensions that use this particular method of healing?
I am not particularly familiar, but I can intuit from the name that it involves something to do with using the spirits of plants to heal. And honestly, yes, there is stuff that uses plants to help us heal. Whether that's plants that have given us parts for medicines, or plants that have donated energy to help heal.
Yes.
Yeah, those methods are used even here on Terra. The Bach flower remedies use the energetic essences of various flowers and plants for healing. Anybody that's like an herbologist or a naturopath uses the physical plants for healing. And from what I understand, it still is methods of healing that are continued up into the higher dimensions.
And plant harvesting is done generally through respectful and non-lethal methods. a lot of plants will voluntarily donate material too, and they make it pretty obvious.
Okay. You guys have been consistent in saying that the Star Wars series is based on the Lyran Wars that happened a long time ago. Is the technology level present in the Star Wars series roughly equivalent to the technology involved in the Lyran Wars back then?
Well, if you consider the fact that the Lyran Wars took place well over 4 billion years ago, with the exception of the regressive Draco, the positives and neutrals have only gained in technology and spiritual advancement, where quite comparatively the Draco have gone backwards and
Sunfire? I think what they were asking is if the technology that's presented to us in the Star Wars series is what was actually used during the Lyran Wars. And I think in general it was.
Yeah.
That was the level of tech that was available then.
Right.
We've since come a long ways. Like back then, you've got the hyperspace travel. It could still take months to get between distant systems. Nowadays, you can do it in seconds if you've got the right equipment, and even, slower equipment still reduces it to a matter of days, not months. So, we have come a long ways.
Yes.
Right.
All right. In other planets, the Divine Mother Goddess was named Alixi, Lexei, Lixei, Dixei, and Tixei. Why did we change her name to the Roman goddess Diana?
All right, I don't think I understand the question.
Yeah, me either.
Yeah.
Let's start with that first one, first part of it. I understood the why did we change her name to Diana.
Yes.
As far as I know, Diana is the name of the moon.
Yeah. They were saying the Divine Mother Goddess. Divine Mother Goddess had 5 different names: Alixi, Lexei, Lixei, Dixei, and Tixei. Must admit I'm not familiar with those terms.
I really don't know what they mean by the Divine Mother Goddess, because there's a lot of goddesses, and a lot of them, and they're all divine, and many of them are mothers too. For instance, if what you're talking about is sort of like a feminized counterpart of a masculine god, like what the monotheists believe in, there really isn't a god that is as all-powerful as the monotheists believe in the first place. If you're talking about Source does not personify. Source is neither male nor female and is both at the same time, and plus all other genders that are possible. Source is not a divine mother goddess or a god. Source is everything. So I don't know what the source of this particular question is or the assumptions that underlie it, considering that there are a heck of a lot of goddesses running around and a lot of them are mothers.
Yeah, and generally speaking, even when you have an individual god or goddess that is known across multiple different races or multiple different tribes with a different name, you have, for example, there's always, the Roman gods, the Greek gods, and a portion of the Nordic gods are all the same beings, just different, they just have different names depending on whatever region they're in at the time. And, that just happens. It's, because they didn't stay in one area. They roamed around.
Yep.
And,
they were really
friendly back then.
Worship is not typically done by positive species. Gods, at least positive gods, do not demand worship. It's usually considered a sign of insanity.
Yeah.
Maybe this might explain the first part. Was Princess Diana the incarnated Divine Mother Goddess Ixei?
I have no idea.
Right, okay.
Likely she wasn't incarnate. As far as whether she was a goddess or not, I don't know.
I do know that Diana is the common name given to Artemis, and well, we know who Artemis is up there, and it was not Princess Diana.
Nope. Okay. Question for Sunfire. What is happening with our sun, and how is it changing us in terms of changing internally? How is it changing us, and in terms of how is it changing internally the sun itself?
The sun is being prepared for the transition, much like everything else. And what the ET are doing is, among other things, they're injecting helium, large amounts of helium into the sun and helping stabilize it. And it is transitioning from a yellow-white to a blue-white star, and is converting to different energies. And as part of the transition, for it to exist in the higher dimensions, it needs to become a blue-white star. And it would be far more
this helium injection, it's the reason why they're doing it is actually because, and I'm getting this from Hank, it's actually because there was large quantities that were stolen over the last 26,000 years that should be there and aren't.
And that is why you guys see the videos that were provided by Soho of the Black Orb, which is one of the motherships, or M classes, or biospheres, whatever you want to call it, with the energetic tether, cord, cable, whatever you want to call it, going from the biosphere to the sun. Is because that was one of the points when it got caught on video, and they love to get caught on video around the sun. It's one of their little favorite things to go, ha ha, hi, I'm here. That was one of the points when they were making some adjustments and injecting some helium into the star, the sun.
Okay, question for Tanaath. Are there infinite or twin versions of us in an infinite number of universes?
Yep.
Okay. Will the ETs step in and help out if anything occurs in Syria?
We're already doing what we can to help with that situation without being able to act more overtly. We can't guarantee a more overt action, but we're doing what we can to make things a little bit better. We also noticed that, well, a certain someone tried to go to war and discovered that he didn't have an army.
Oops.
That was nothing to do with us. We're not going to take credit for what the good men and women who are attempting to do good in this world are doing. We're not the only actors around here, guys. You guys are too. You have a obligation and an opportunity to act in your own behalf here.
The collective consciousness of the general global population has a significant influence on the outcome of these things. The strong will and desire of the collective global population. If you guys will and desire that you do not want World War III, and you assert that will and assert that desire that it will not happen, and decide yourself as an individual, not only as an individual, but as a group, that you don't want that to happen and that it will not happen in your reality and in your timeline, you guys can influence this quite significantly, and one person can have a big impact.
Believe in yourself and believe in your own power.
And step into your power and take it back. Don't let other people continue to use and abuse your power. Take it back, step into it, and wield it proudly. We are all very, very powerful beings, individually and even more so collectively.
Yeah, remember, a hero is not somebody else doing something. A hero is you acting of your own free will to do something that you know is right and that you know you need to do.
The original definition of warrior is somebody who is not afraid to be their self. all the time. We were all capable of being warriors.
And we're all capable of being heroes. Look up the notion of heroes from the Greek, and you'll start to understand what I'm talking about.
Yes, one of my favorite, to add to that, one of my favorite Tanaath sayings is never put anyone above your own heart. You know,
Nope.
stand in your own
no
sovereignty.
Authority.
Exactly.
Accept no authority over you that you did not expressly agree to. And
Well,
even then, if you feel they aren't serving your interests, recant that agreement.
Yeah, and take responsibility for your own life and the outcome of your own timeline and your own reality and your own existence. One of the biggest things that is, that is known and expressed and utilized throughout the positives and neutrals is self-responsibility.
Yeah, one of the
self-determination.
One of the things that comes up quite frequently in the emails is people feeling, and on the Facebook, people feeling they're not doing enough, or if you are getting the message out, you are doing enough. If it requires that you have to step up in another theatre to do something, you will be called on. So never feel that you're inadequate, Yeah,
it won't be such an obvious call if somebody calls you up and asks you to do something, although in some cases it is. It'll be an internal call. Listen to your heart. Listen to your inner self.
Also,
somebody else outside yourself can steer you wrong or can put you to something that maybe isn't utilizing your best strength, but you generally cannot steer yourself wrong when it comes to utilizing your best strengths and doing things that you're good at and that you like.
Exactly. Like I said, taking back the power and taking control of it and wielding it and, focusing on self-responsibility and self-determination, you have the power to influence the outcome of things like the war in Syria. Each individual person on this planet has the ability, because of the way that the collective consciousness is networked together, to influence at least 100,000 people. Just by making their own decision, just by making the decision that you're not going to accept a war in Syria, you're not going to accept World War III in your reality. That is the kind of effect you have on an individual.
Use it for your own self and for your family and for those you love and the planet you love. Don't let it be used against you like it's been used. Don't let your own power be used against you unthinkingly. Step up, take control of your life, take control of yourself. You can do this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Question for Drake. I have read about the Dulce battle involving US Delta Force against bad ETs. Did this happen? And the second part is, according to the story, good reptoids helped in the attack. Is this valid?
Well, there's been a bunch of fights, and there's been some assistance by certain ETs. There's only one problem. Reptoids ain't necessarily good or bad, so it's hard to judge them. Now, taking that along with the rest of the soup, there were several major battles that I heard about from some people that deal with such things and information that I was not supposed to be privileged to. The Dulce problem is not necessarily as simple as it might seem. In other words, it's not exactly a contest over an area or access to underground tunnels and things of this nature, but more so an energy hotspot on the planet. You can take those energy hotspots, and when you put the right kind of mechanisms in close proximity or on the hotspot itself, use them for power sources and all kinds of things. So the ulterior motives in it probably are mistaken, and for the reasons I've given. But yeah, from my knowledge, yes, there was a battle down there.
Yes, I think it was Phil Schneider who came forward, and I think that was the Dulce battle.
Yeah.
Sadly, he got removed. Sadly. Right. Next question. Sorry.
I was going to say there's things out there like the Dulce book and the Dulce papers that have a lot of really good, useful information. I would say use your discernment and understand that it's fairly outdated information, but for people that are really interested in the overall information, it's still really useful. And so are the Matrix books. I highly recommend the Matrix books by Val Valerian.
Right. Are for the teenagers as immature as the teenagers of this 3D world?
Well, no, they're not teenagers. The stage at which that sort of maturity occurs, or lack thereof, maturity, it's going to vary, but most people who are in their teens are going to be infants or toddlers still in higher dimensions. They're a little more aware of consequences, a lot more aware of consequences, and not quite as, lacking in reflection. But they're still kids. They're children. And they act like children.
Hi all, and welcome back to the second hour of Tanaath, Sunfire and Drake. That was Robbie Williams and Angels, and preceding that was Heads Unworthy, Rise Against, a favourite of Tanaath's, I believe. Right, okay.
That was Counting Crows Omaha, the one that just played.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I like that one because it's really about, not letting con men and flashy things fool you, and just emphasizing the things that are important: family, your own heart, your home, things like that. The little things in life, not the flashy stuff.
Yes. All right. Okay. On we go.
I can hear somebody typing.
Yes, and somebody. Right. Can two souls have a baby?
Yep.
Yep.
Happens quite frequently.
Hey, up there in the higher dimensions, even three souls can have a baby together, or
more.
Up to four can have a baby together.
If you're from a species or individual who enjoys carrying and pregnancy, well, then there might be some argument over who gets to do that, but people can have babies in higher dimensions.
Yeah, the boys can carry babies in higher dimensions too.
Yep.
I remember having that argument with my fiance.
I've got a daughter-in-law who seems to enjoy being pregnant. She's on her fourth in 5 years. So, there we go. Right.
Some people really like being pregnant. Others are, terrified of it.
Yeah. Is a soul and a spirit body the same thing?
Largely in the way that you're using the terminology. Depending on your definition, the spirit is the part that comes from source and it is formless. The soul is that which has the form. When we talk about spirit body, we're typically talking about the soul, as in distinct from our thoughts of our physical body, which most of us are used to thinking of as us. This is not indeed the case. You are not your body. You are your soul. Your body is the vehicle through which you experience this third-dimensional life.
Right. This next question is a bit... Right, I'll try and make something of it. The option of having a physical body or not was mentioned, and that bodies deteriorate in 4D. Will I have the option of renewing my body without death? And what is death in 4D?
Well, most of the time bodies don't deteriorate in 4D unless there's some artificial circumstance invoking this. So while you get older, you don't necessarily age. Although most fourth-dimensional humans have a lifespan of between 5 and 1,500 years, and most fifth-dimensional humans have a lifespan between about 20,000 and 30,000 years. What was the rest of that question there? I don't like omnibus. I lose the questions.
Will I have the option of renewing my body without death, and what is death in 4D?
Death in 4D is basically the same thing as death anywhere else. It is the temporary return of consciousness to source. So when you die, you return to source, and then you either have to get resurrected to come back, or you have to get born into another body. Or, well, another form, I should say, since the body is not quite the same thing.
Yes.
A lot of times it's voluntary. Some people are like, well, I'm bored of being an X, so I'm going to go become a Y. So, that happens too.
Yeah. We have enough of that down here. Right, okay. Question for Tanaath or Sunfire. What planet are unicorns from, and what planet are unipegs from? And could you describe what life is like on one of these planets, please?
Well, they're not from any particular planet. They show up on multiple planets.
Yeah.
Just like humans show up on multiple planets without being technically related to each other or having the same origin, unicorns and unipegs and pegasi also show up on multiple planets without having to be, related to one another. Horses and equine type creatures in general are often considered to be sacred, largely because, most people like them a lot up there because they're awesome companions, and when you get claimed by a unicorn, pegasus, or unipeg, it's a big honor, and most people are usually hugely flattered by this.
And they're also considered equal as far as equal, and in some cases I want to say superior as far as sentience and intelligence compared to most humans. Yeah,
they're often protective, very, very protective spirits.
So, they're not just, they're not just animals like horses are treated down here, unfortunately. And if you try to treat them as a lesser being, they will let you know what they think about it. Quite painful.
Yeah. Some animals permit themselves to be hunted. Unipegs and unicorns and pegasi definitely don't, and most things that try end up getting skewered.
All right. This next question, the person's quite concerned about what they used to do. They belonged to a group called the Sananda Eagle and would do group meditation each week. We now found out that this is Galactic Federation of Light, and what they want to know is what were we being used to do? Is it something to do with slowing down the Earth or the ascension? This has been on his mind since around 2002.
You were being used to attempt a Trojan horse in the Galactic Federation of Light. You were being used to create energetics constructs that were aimed at keeping out those who were actually friendly and aimed at maintaining the slavery, the mental slavery and spiritual slavery of humans on this planet. many of those geometric figures that you were likely told to meditate on, most likely referred to as mandalas or mandalas, were in fact enslavement devices meant to keep you entrapped on the surface and imprison your own spirit inside a cage. Those are not light ships. They're certainly not personal light ships. They are prison cells. By making the free will decision to sever yourself from these beings and refusing to have anything more to do with them and refusing to do their work consciously, you have taken the first steps to freeing yourself. So it's unlikely that they're continuing to use you to do damage.
Okay.
If you've decided that you will not be used in that way, reinforce it, don't waver on it, use your will. Your will is more powerful than they are.
And reclaim your power.
Yep.
Okay.
There's formalized contract-breaking material that you can use to sever those kinds of connections. Some of them can be found online. Somebody sent me a link, and I'll see if I can put it up on my blog so that people can go to it.
Very good. Next question. I would like to know more about how ETs meditate. Does it depend on the individual, or are there particular ways of meditation passed down in different cultures?
It depends on the individual.
It's a little bit of all of the above there. Everybody has different ways of doing it. Some cultures and schools of thought teach particular ways, but they don't say this is the only way to do it. They say this is the way we do it, what works for us, and then they teach you, and you can make your own decision on whether or not that's going to be useful for you. There's no right or wrong way. Yeah.
The next part, do Taosetians meditate in general?
Yep.
Yeah, they do.
Okay. You ready, Drake? I got a feeling you're going to answer
I figured
this
it was
one.
coming.
Would you please comment on exotic matter? Does it influence us?
Exotic matter?
Yeah, XM. That's all. That's the only thing it says.
Well, yes, it does, but it depends on the manner in which you. It depends on the manner in which you allow anything to affect you as to the outcome. It don't matter if it's bad ETs or some other fun and games. Exotic matter can be used in a variety of ways. You're talking about a textbook answer, and you can go all the way from implementing matter from plasma. You can take that a few steps further and cause time shifts that actually causationally shift things in a manner in which you have a pseudo matter that lasts a certain period of time. You can actually manifest something into reality. It varies as to what application and what you allow.
Okay. Question for Tanaath. What are video games like in 4D? How do you play them? And how do you play them?
It all depends on the platform. There are, the Silver Legion has a lot of people who enjoy playing video games. Some of them do this actually on replicated consoles and do it the same way that you might down here. Others prefer to get into the game and do it in the holodeck or in the arena, in which they actually take place in a fully immersive game.
Right, and the other part is, do other races have their own type of video games?
Oh, yeah. Holo programming and holo games are a huge thing up there.
Oh, yeah.
And furthermore, a lot of the, I guess you could say, more less technologically advanced pastimes are still enjoyed a lot. Board games, card games. There's some very famous board games that I think people down here would recognize. They're forms of chess that are played up in space. Additionally, some of the board games that you see in Star Trek are actually based on reality.
Yep. Like Contrast, which is, I know it's mentioned in Star Trek Deep Space Nine multiple times by Garrick. That is a Talstedian strategy game. Domjot, another one that's mentioned in Star Trek Deep Space Nine and Star Trek The Next Generation, is a, if I'm remembering this correctly, I believe it comes from the Andromedy, and is a variation on their game. There's a few of the games that are played by the Ferengi that are variations of card games from Procyon and from a couple of the other races. Can't remember which one it was, but I know even the one in the episode Move Along Home, Alan Moraine, where was it? I don't know. Anyway, that one, the game that's in Move Along Home, the episode Move Along Home, Deep Space Nine, that comes from the Talstedians, my people, and is it's a combination holodeck game and board game, and it is a lot of fun. I know the one fleet commander of one of the specialized forces fleets for the Talstedians. He especially loves that game. Guy.
Yep.
Yes. Right. Next question. Is Sirius, the Dog Star, a living and conscious entity that affects our reality matrix and is reading humanity's mental activity? If yes, is it ill-intentioned towards us?
Okay, that's an odd one. Planets and stars are alive. They have consciousness. Most of the time, and to the best of my knowledge, they're not sitting up there gazing out at other stars' planets. So, yes, Sirius is alive. Yes, it is conscious. And that's all of them, A, B, and C. No, they're not necessarily sitting there watching us like wolves or whatever.
That's okay.
Could you imagine that if the stars and the planets were all sitting up there thinking and plotting against their inhabitants, and there's one that's like one of the planets who's going, I saw all these chicks on me, I gotta figure out how to get them off, and then talking to it's a star or a star in another solar system, and is like going, how do I get these chicks off my back?
Yeah, better yet, sitting out there silently judging other planets' populations. I don't think so.
Yeah.
No.
Really.
No.
I don't think so either.
Right, next question. I saw a video where General Petraeus passed out and it looked as if he shape-shifted. Did this actually happen?
I haven't seen the video. I have no idea. People got to remember, and I know I've said this before, what we usually think, what is usually claimed to be shape-shifting, a lot of the time it is just digital artifacts in the actual recording and not a true shapeshift. Even in the case where it isn't a digital artifact, it is not actually a true changing of shape. What it is a breakdown in the hologram that being is using to make itself appear to be human, as in it was never shape-shifted to begin with. It was just basically wearing a human paint. Bad makeup. Think of it as the makeup smearing, not a shape-shift. Or it is a spirit glimpse of the true soul of that being. Again, smeared makeup, not a shape-shift. When a young lady gets her face paint smeared, it does not mean that her face underneath has changed shape. It means that the illusion she has applied to the surface has disintegrated. Same thing.
Apart from that video where Bush Senior eyes changed, or it looked like anyway. Right, are ancient Chinese very knowledgeable of sacred geometry and making use of nature forces in battles?
I would say
yes,
so,
they
yeah.
were, and so were a lot of other ancient cultures. Just wasn't limited to the Chinese. Remember, human civilization on this planet has risen and fallen several times.
Yeah, the Spartans were another one that were very often utilizing sacred geometry and many other things.
We think of ourselves as very technologically advanced right now on this planet, and yes, in comparison to people 2,000 years ago, we were. But keep in mind that there were civilizations on this planet that were thousands of years beyond what we currently have.
Yeah.
And that much has been suppressed from us as well.
Yeah.
Right. Are the species types connected to or based on Chinese astrology?
Not that I know of. It could be that Chinese astrology is based on species types.
Question to Tanaath.
Originally,
Carry on.
I was going to say originally astrology had 13 houses and 13 zodiac signs, and it was based off of 13, not 12.
Well, there used to be 13 months of 20 days, from my understanding.
Yeah.
So
yep.
maybe
there are a lot more species types than are currently reflected in any zodiac. A lot more.
Yeah. Okay, question for Tanaath. Are you able to tell us a little about the Silver Legion Ravens and any other divisions?
I have written up a little bit about this on the website. I would check that first and see if your question is answered there. If it's not, then refine your question a little bit further and then resubmit it.
Okay. Right. Question for Sunfire. What skills or training do you need to become a diplomat for the Galactic Federation of Planets?
You have to be at least 1,500 years old or equivalent to your race, which is roughly about 30 to 35 years old in Terran years. Cannot be from a junior member planet. Only individuals from full member planets are permitted to represent the Galactic Federation of Planets diplomatically, but junior member planets do have their own diplomats that represent their interests separately. Also, you have to be a member of the Galactic Federation of Planets Diplomatic Division, plus at least a minimum of about 100 to 150 years of training specifically for diplomatic work or, the equivalent, and pretty much beyond that, the rest is confidential.
Okay. Is Earth the only planet where bikes are used, be it motor or manual?
Probably not. I mean, there's certain forms that just make sense. You probably have to ask yourself why modern airplanes so resemble some of the airplanes that we've seen depicted in ancient art. It is because that is the most aerodynamic form for that particular purpose. Ask yourself why bats and birds have evolved similar shaped wings for the same reason. There are certain forms geometrically that are good at certain purposes. It stands to reason that somebody somewhere would have invented a bicycle because it is a form that works. Just like you don't try to roll around on square wheels. We use round wheels because they work.
Okay. Drake, if I concentrate on an object, it begins to lose its straight form, kind of like a mirage effect. This and some other things are happening to me for a few months now. Do you know what this could be?
Yeah. I've stipulated this before, and a lot of people are still questioning it, but it's there anyway. As we approach the transition, the point where we are going to go from 3 to 4D, the capabilities of certain individuals, not everybody, but certain ones, will be heightened to a great extent much sooner than the actual transition and much sooner than the majority of the population. There's reasons for this that you will find out as you continue. In terms of reality, when you use your capabilities in our present condition, you are invoking and using what the movie The Matrix was showing you being inserted in. Instead of being inserted, you are a principal part. Therefore, you can adjust and alter anything you decide needs to be changed a bit in this reality. There are some limitations, not many. So don't be surprised if you make a beer can disappear or some other such thing. These are learning experiences. Learn how to do it on a regular basis, because that particular talent is going to become useful, not necessarily just to you, but possibly to others. So enjoy it. It's fun to play games.
Demanifestation is the flip side of manifestation, by the way.
Yeah.
If you can do one, you can do the other.
Drake, when you were talking about between the fall and spring time frame, were you referring to ascension or the financial change?
We're waiting now presently on the financial change. Is very, very close. The fall and spring time frame or generality deals more with the transition than with the financial reset. However, you got to remember one thing. All of this stuff is interrelated. The interrelation of those things will become more apparent as we get these things done. Okay?
Yep. Next question for anyone. Will some ETs be interested in us at a sexual level?
Yes. Consent is going to be required, so if you're not interested, you tell them not interested. But their sexual mores are a lot more open than ours in general.
I'm kind of hesitant. I'm kind of hesitant about that question. My wife might object.
Well, they are, if nothing else, they are extremely respectful about personal choice in that kind of thing. So while you might get propositioned, they do take no for an answer.
Yeah, they do. Speaking from my own experience, I'm in an exclusive relationship with my fiance, and we get the propositions and we get the offers and everything, and we just very politely turn them down, and they've always been really respectful about it. I never have any problems with them pushing beyond the no.
A lot of cultures treat sexuality as something that occurs between friends rather than something that occurs between reproducing partners or mates. So there is a division, and since for most people involuntary pregnancy is not a thing, it really is a separate thing. A lot of people don't even use sex to reproduce. They use an energy transfer, and so it's not tied in with the same baggage that it is on this planet. It also is not used as a form of control, societal or otherwise. It is also not used as a way to decide who has resources and who does not resources, a la property laws. For all these people who are going on and on about the sanctity of marriage, what they don't seem to acknowledge is that modern marriage is based off a medieval definition that comes from property laws. It had nothing to do with any kind of sanctity at all, and everything to do with who inherits. And since that's not exactly a concept up there, well, we don't have those same kind of property and chattel laws. There is no ownership of people among positives.
Technically, there's no ownership of just about anything among positives.
Yeah, pretty much. It's very property-free.
Yeah.
There's stuff for personal use, but, since everything can, and, things that have personal meaning, like art or gifts and things like that, but for the most part, we don't have property. We don't have property in terms of owning land. We don't have property in terms of owning spacecraft or things like that, although we do have them for personal use. And we really don't have, or sentient beings. That's kind of a no-no. That concept does not exist among us.
Yeah, animals, any sentient animals are not considered pets. They're not considered your property. They are considered your companions.
Yep.
Like I said, try owning a uniped. You'll learn quite painfully that doesn't happen.
And while there are people who farm, they understand that the land owns itself. Nobody owns that. And they're considered more stewards of the land than owners of the land. And you can stick your house anywhere as long as it's not disturbing somebody else, but you don't own it. It's yours to use and as you need, but there's no private ownership of property.
Well, that's good to know. So does that mean that they don't class women as second-class citizens to be used up there then?
Oh, definitely not. I think you'd find most women would kick the butts of anybody who tried it. We don't class men as second-class citizens to be owned either.
Right. At least among the
positives. You go to the negatives, and usually it's whichever sex happens to have the power advantage over the other. And if you look at the Drow civilization, they're entirely matriarchal because most of the females are stronger in terms of magic and also physically stronger than the males. So they run the roost.
Yeah, among the positives, the males and females are equal, and then when there's multiple sexes involved, then they're all equal.
Yep. In my species, you don't see much problems between men and women, despite the fact that an equal-aged male is about 2/3 the size of an equal-aged female. And the equal-aged female is correspondingly more powerful. Our males are true selves, in other words. There's still not a division in terms of social power.
Okay. Question to Tanaath. You have mentioned earlier that Tausetians have some feline genetics. Can you explain more? And do they pair?
I've heard one of them purr. I don't know if they all do, but I know at least one who does. But that could also be because he's also a dragon or has been a dragon. Sunfire can also talk about this. But a very long time ago, when the Tausetians were a young species, they did intermarry with some feline humanoids as well.
Yeah, that's where the extremely sharp pointed teeth and pointed ears come from.
Yep.
Any of the when you look out across the galaxy, at least not further, any of the races that are mentioned between us and the Andromeda Council, etc., that have pointed ears, it's because of the influence of felinoids, which are feline humanoids. And
or it could be also elven or fey, because often elven and fey races have pointed ears as well.
Right. But I know at least the Tauseti and a few of the other ones that are commonly mentioned, there's feline influence. And there's a really, 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 really nice race of felinoids in the Sirius A system that we absolutely love. It's one of the member planets of the Federation.
Yep. There's a couple of inhabited planets in Sirius A. Sirius B is Galactic Federation of Light and Reptoids. So be aware of anybody who says that they're Sirian without providing more information about which Sirius.
Yes.
And right now the planets of Sirius C are just in the process of being terraformed. So there's really not anybody that's inhabiting the Sirius C system. But it's under control of the positives.
And Sirius C is only recently settled. There are no native populations in Sirius C. It's all colonies.
Does the same you said not to trust all Syrians, the same apply to Palladians?
Well, no. If they call themselves a Syrian, ask for more information, because just saying Syrian is not enough. It's the same thing with Pleiadians, because of the several hundred Pleiadian planets and systems, several hundred, there are many that are not friendly. Just saying, oh, I'm Pleiadian is not enough information to go by. And unfortunately, the activities of the Galactic Federation of Light have led to a careful grooming of the New Age and alternate spirituality movements in order to make people associate the term Pleiadian with good guys. This has been deliberately so that they can come in and say, hey, we're Pleiadian, and you'll think, oh, they're good guys, without looking any further than that.
Yeah. Right. Question. I have heard Tolex information on the about the ships that are coming to take the people who want to stay in 3D. I would like the girls' knowledge on this, please.
What we know about this is that it is an Andromeda Council initiative. We have not had as full communication with the Andromeda Council in the last little while as we would have liked. We have also not had as much communication with Pollock as we'd like. We'd like to remind everybody to use their discernment with all materials, regardless of who it comes from. And remember that, it's up to you to be discerning and to decide for yourself what is truth for you. When it comes to this, we know that the Andromeda Council did plan on offering the opportunity to those who wished to remain third dimensional to leave the planet before transition in order to stay third dimensional. In other words, this would not be a forced thing. It is not required for ascension, as has been stated many times. If you want to ascend, keep your buns on this planet.
And be on the surface, not underneath it.
Yes, on the surface, not underneath it. You don't need any light chambers. You don't need any special equipment. All you need to do is have a heartbeat and respiratory function, ideally, and you'll be fine.
Yes.
If it should turn out that there is no way to offer people who wish to remain third dimensional the option to remain third dimensional in a feasible way that permits them to make a full conscious decision, then they'll probably go to the fourth dimension and then have to decide to roll back, as it were, on another planet.
Hopefully that won't be the case.
Yeah,
right.
We'd like to be able to offer those who wish to leave the opportunity to leave.
Yeah.
Okay, if we will look like an ideal version of ourselves after transition, does that mean everyone will be sexy, and will ugliness be a thing of the past?
Ugliness is already a thing of the past. A lot of what you think of as ugly is social programming, or the consequence of long-term chronic poisoning and disease.
Yeah,
we're not considered ugly as it is by higher dimensionals unless they're negatives. They're the only ones who really have a concept of ugliness. We're just considered beautiful people who happen to be suffering from other maladies, other fully curable maladies.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, sexiness, ugliness, beauty, it's all in the eye of the beholder. Everybody has their own concept of what is and what isn't, but yeah, like, Tanaath said, it's a totally different concept in the higher dimensions, especially among the positives and the majority of the neutrals. And I would say even a good majority of the negatives, they, not all of them look at us and go, you, humans, or you, Terrans, they're ugly. It's very much, among the Draco and the Hydra and their allies that look at us and see us as barbaric monsters or animals or lesser than them.
Good. Right, for people who choose to remain in 3D, will there be homes and businesses as such on the new planet when they arrive?
I'm not sure of businesses in the way we're normally accustomed to thinking of a business, but yes, there'll be homes and there'll be things they can do.
Great. Have any of you ever heard of the Intergalactic Confederation of Worlds, and are they good, bad, or indifferent?
I haven't heard of that particular name. But then, there is a lot of different groups. Without seeing some of their material, I couldn't say whether they were good, bad, or indifferent. It all comes down to the kind of information that they're putting across. There is one thing I will refer you back to some of Tolik's early words, in which he stated, does it empower you? If it empowers you, it is positive. If it instead takes power away from you, makes you feel guilty, calls you bad, gives you all kinds of denigration, it is probably not with your best interests in mind. And if they are a real legitimate organization and they're coming here to cause problems, it doesn't matter how many people they've got backing them. We will stop them. We'll die before we let someone come here and destroy this planet or its people.
Yep.
Yeah, great. You heard of them before?
Yes, I have. I did some. People started mentioning a bunch of groups, so I started looking around, and I've heard of them. They're one of the ones that I did not read a bunch about, but on the surface they seemed okay. Don't know. I'd have to really get into what they're touting before I could make a decision on that. And even then, and this is a problem for many, you probably wouldn't be able to fully tell from written material. I have a tendency to be able to discern things at a greater depth than most, and that would be my next take. First, I look at what they got to say, read some of it. If it don't feel bad and don't seem bad, then I go to the next step of going further. Or if what I read or what I've seen is not non-committal, doesn't specify, I go further. In this case, I didn't take the time to go into that depth, so I cannot confirm good, bad, or ugly. So, people have to look at it, use their discernment, as you stated, and go from there.
Yeah, the other thing I would say is anybody, as a general caveat, now I haven't seen the material, so I can't say if this is what they're doing, but as a general caveat, anybody who is falling back to authority as an explanation for why they're doing something, who is saying that it's been decreed, whether divinely or otherwise, who are saying that, decisions and control and power was made above your head, is probably not acting in your best interests.
Yep.
I agree.
We don't have any such hierarchy. We would like it if the people of Terra and this planet chose to join the Galactic Federation of Planets. You're fully able to tell us to F right off, but we're only going to F right off after you're safe.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, so many people are like, why don't the ETs intervene? Why don't they get involved? We are intervening.
We are involved.
But we're not going to do this for you. Come We are not your gods. We are not your saviors. Some of this, the general population has to step up and do themselves.
Yeah, and we're seeing some of it, after all. You know, a certain somebody did not get his little war yet, and as far as the people of this planet is concerned, it doesn't look like you're going to let him have his little war either.
Yeah.
Nope.
Shucks.
Don't discount your own power.
No. Question for Drake, or all three. What is the difference between religion and spirituality?
Well, religion is a proscription and prescription on thought. Religion is basically an idea that you are told you must follow or must obey or must think. Spirituality permits you to explore your relationship with existence in whatever way you wish. Religion tells you how to live your life. It is a series of instructions, not always with your best interests in mind, and always with the notion of controlling you. Anyone else want to add to that? Maybe Drake?
And then see the root definition of the word religion is cult.
Yep, cult. Well, actually, the word cult, we come to think of cult as a little sect of really, really aberrant people who are probably crazy. But the word cult actually means religion.
I'm gonna clarify that for you. Cult does not mean religion. Its true definition is any singular belief. Oops. That means if you believe this way, that way, or whatever, in a singular way, you are a cultist. Ooh, goodness, it gets on you. We had this discussion in a church group that I was involved with, and I decided to look up the words. And when we got down to the nitty-gritty of it, anybody that's a member of a, quote, belief system, doesn't matter what it is, you are a cultist. Anybody who subscribes wholly and totally to any singular belief system, it can be Republican, Democrat, or Protestant, or Catholic, is a cultist. It's a singular belief. That's its base in the Greek, and I was kind of surprised. Well, I was kind of surprised.
Yeah.
If you look and you go back to origins of words, you'll find that religion don't exist. That's very prevalent in terms of a lot of things that I thought, it ought to be written in everywhere. Problem is, it was made up accordingly, describing exactly what you described, a singular belief of a controlling type system, which is a real good definition of religion or belief systems. The manner in which anyone out there at any educational background can find what's called discernment. In other words, finding little keys that show you to the door and through that door so that you can understand what's really going on. The name of the book is The Hidden Persuaders. It's an old one, done back in the 50s. However, it explains in great detail all of the hidden persuaders in all belief orientations, be that buying a new car, be that a belief system of religion, or be that a belief in a political entity or whatever. And I recommend it highly if you can get hold of it, get it, read it. It is well worth the read. It does go into the basis for the manner in which these things have been warped in order to cause people to do things they normally would not do. Be that buy that new car that you got to have so you can keep up with the Joneses or the house or whatever.
Or blow yourself up.
Yeah. It starts and is prevalent and most obvious in advertising. Who says we got to eat at Mickey D's? I mean, that slop down there kill you, quite literally. And then again, some places have actually gone to the point where One of the places that I've eaten at several times is called Coco's. And it's all absolutely organic as it can get. Grain-fed beef, chicken, free range, not the feedlot, free range. And they're not pumped full of drugs to make them get fat just before slaughter. The locally grown organic ingredients in their salads and whatnot is so delicious you just would not believe the difference in the quality of the food and the manner in which your body reacts to it.
Yeah, I just had a meal with Coco's the other day. It was really good.
I never heard of them. I'm in Canada. Ha ha ha. But I think we kind of went on a tangent there. We were talking about persuasion, and then you started talking about Coco's.
But I think
the persuasion is simple, and it goes to the hidden persuaders. The hidden persuaders are the persuasion. You have to be free, white, and 21. You've heard this expression. Everybody has. It ain't nice. It's racist and nasty. But free, white, and 21, okay, free has a connotation, and so does the white, and so does the 21. And none of these are nice. They go to the hidden persuaders of the right religion, the right color, and the right age. You got to be right. Well, no, you don't. You have to be correct in terms of a proactive lifestyle. That is the key to that. But influences, oh man, watch some commercials. They actually make shows about commercials, how innovative they are and what they do. And then you've got a thing called subliminal. It's supposed to be illegal. And if you take your digital signal, and this is difficult today because the digital signal is a lot faster than the old analog signal that we used to have that ran TV sets. So you can put in a 60,000th of a second blurb and show somebody chomping a Big Mac. Now you know why you got that Big Mac attack at 9:30 at night, among other things. I've said my piece.
Okay.
One of the things I wanted, in relation to all this, one of the things that I wanted to reiterate was one said by Warren A., the Zenite that Alex Collier speaks to. He said, it doesn't matter what you believe. What matters is why you believe it. And that goes for just about anything. So think about that.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. For instance, I would argue that a belief maintained out of fear is probably not healthy.
No, definitely not. Right, next question. Are any dragons reptilian in nature?
Are you talking about evil dragons? Yes, there's evil dragons, just as there are evil human beings. Are you talking about look like reptiles? Well, I would argue that there are some reptilians that look like dragons. Usually dragons are dragons, not reptilians. Although sometimes reptilians have been known to genetically engineer themselves to mimic dragons.
And the second part...
It's kind of interesting. I was watching...
No, carry on.
I was just going to say I was watching Ancient Aliens today, and they were saying on the show that dinosaurs are reptilian, and my mom, she asked me if that was true, and I said, no, dinosaurs and reptilians are two totally different species, much like the difference between dragons and reptilians. They're two totally different species.
Heck, it's a different, well, what we call animal kingdom. Dinosaurs are closer to birds than they are to reptiles. Reptiles are reptiles.
Yep.
They just they even mentioned on the episode that they said that they found some T-Rex skeletons that still had muscle and tissue and all that, and they're starting to think there is at least one variety of T-Rex that had feathers.
Yep.
Yep.
Well, they have found feathers on multiple kinds of dinosaurs. In fact, most people who study dinosaurs will tell you now, yeah, they're birds.
If you want to really get into some fun and games, there's another show out there that shows the armor-plated dinosaur feathers. Think about an armor-plated feather and go see the show. It's worth a watch. It really is.
Yes. The notion that reptilians are dinosaurs is a false idea planted in order to establish false legitimate claim to this planet. There is no legitimate claim to this planet by the reptilians.
Yep. And the second part, are there more friendly dragons than negative ones?
Well, that's hard to say since I don't know all of the dragons that exist. I know among my species we fall into two different camps, Skedinari and Shonokai. Shonokai don't like humanoids. They think of themselves as naturally superior to all other species. Shonokai are kind of assholes. You don't want to mess with them. They have a superiority complex, and they're usually mean, they're usually nasty, and some of them are actually outright evil. Skedinari, on the other hand, are quite tolerant and open to the notion of species equality and the notion that every kind of species is potentially equal. The term Skedinari is a bit of tongue-in-cheek. It comes from the dragon language. In my language, the word sketh means poop, and skethnra is one of the Shonokai terms for humanoids or anything that does not fly. It means basically poop worms that crawl in the dirt. The term Skedinari is a bit of a tongue-in-cheek comment on the fact that we don't care if you don't got wings, we still love ya.
And one of the things I love the most about dragons is your, what are they called, diplomatic policies?
Oh, yeah, it's dragon diplomacy. The dragon diplomatic flow charts, at least among the positives, has 3 streams. The first stream is, if it's friendly and it's your friend, try to have sex with it. The second stream is, if it's neutral, try to convince it to become your friend. And the third stream is, if it's hostile, kill it.
And if you can, eat it. And all the spells, eat it.
Yeah. And the final box is, if none of the above work, find another way.
Right, okay. Are the crystal children the same as the indigo children?
Well, as far as I know, this is just various ways of trying to categorize incarnates.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I mean that's the way that we look at it, is that incarnates are incarnates, whether they're rainbow children, crystal children, indigos. It's, just like she said, various terminologies and different ways of saying incarnate. And, personally, I prefer the term incarnate because to try to say this, that, or the other, it seems like it's just another, unintentionally or otherwise, it's another way of trying to separate and segregate, and I don't like that.
Yes. More divide and conquer. Okay, the next, you mentioned all synthetic materials will vanish at ascension. How will society survive if they all vanished?
No, Tolek mentioned that all synthetic materials will vanish at ascension. For the matter, I don't think that anything that is absolutely vital to your survival is going to go poof.
Just keep an eye on your underwear.
What if you don't wear any?
What everybody has to understand is, I tried to clarify some of that. I said some will, some won't. What it boils down to, according to the science I understand, is that a natural bond, in other words, something that would be occurring or could occur in nature, even if the materials don't normally bond together, doesn't matter. So long as it's a natural bond, you're okay. It's the totally artificial ones that are supposedly at risk, and only at risk. some of those will survive. But it's going to be interesting if somebody's wearing the wrong kind of clothes in the mall or something. I guarantee you.
That kind of reminds me. Somebody asked me the question the other day, what do I wear on the radio show? And I didn't know which way to answer that. So I'll just say, think of the Roman and Greek statues. You may have an idea. Okay, next question.
I don't know about you, but I wear clothes.
What does the lucid dream state differ from the astral projection state?
Well, lucid dreaming is playing around in the dream world. Astral projection is going to the astral realm. They're two different realms. It's kind of like asking what is the difference between standing on a boat and standing on a ship. Well, one is on a small, enclosed, rather limited space. The other one is on a significantly larger, less enclosed, less limited space.
Yes. After transition, how and who will ask people of Earth to choose 3 or 4D? I think these people are not...
This is going to be happening before transition, not after.
Yeah, that's not something that gets asked afterwards.
Question for Tanaath. I heard a brief report on CBC radio of strange sounds occurring on a hilltop in BC this week, sounding much like trumpets. The reporter could not explain. What is your take on these sounds?
Well, I've heard these before in central Alberta, and what I know these to be, because I asked Drake, is that this is movement of the earth underground. It just sounds like it's coming from the sky because it's being reflected back to you.
Okay.
Pretty much.
Can Drake or anyone comment on the reign of the heavens movement?
I have no idea what this is.
No.
Just say that again so I can get it.
The reign of the heavens movement. What they say sounds good, but are they legitimate?
The heavens movement?
The rain.
Is it talking about rain as in pitter-patter from the sky, or is it talking about rain as in... Okay, yeah, they're talking about rain as in rulership. Well, we all know my opinion on authority and rulership.
Yeah.
Yes.
I agree with Noff on that.
What that refers to is the bad guys trying to appear as light beings and end up owning all of us, pretty much. The ideology that any group or any individual has the authority to usurp the God-given right of freedom of will smells funny to me, and it doesn't matter who seems to think that this or that is correct. Anything that takes your freedom of will or in any way subjugates you from your freedom of will ain't from the right place. Just that simple.
I have read and heard that the crystal children that have been born on Earth for the last 10 to 15 years have different DNA and more abilities than we do, and they are immune to the harmful effects of fast food and GMO foods. Is this true?
Well, no, the last one is definitely not true. You feed anything that stuff, it will make them sick eventually. In terms of having more abilities, in the 3D they have more access to the abilities that you will most likely have in higher dimensions. So it's not like they're coming in and trumping everything.
Right. What it is they're born with their third and fourth strand of DNA already activated or connected. And when the transition hits, we're going to basically everybody that is on the surface of the planet will have all 12 strands of DNA reconnected and reactivated.
Yep.
Right.
Automatically.
Will the people who want to become 4D humans, will they face terrible earth changes that will kill huge amounts of people?
No.
No. Definitely not.
We've been very staunch and very consistent with this. We have not changed. There will be no mass casualty or major catastrophic event on this planet experienced by anybody.
Yes.
Okay?
Fair enough. Next question. Can you tell us more about the Chinese and Japanese people? Where do they originate from?
Their parent races were the Procyon and the Androni.
Primarily. There's other groups in there too, but those are the primary groups.
Okay. Does holographic sexual intercourse occur in 4D?
Yeah, but I mean, most of the time you're able to find a willing real partner that you don't need to go pick up dates in a holodeck. Right. Next question. When in 4D can I learn to fight the reptoids and other baddies so that I can neutralize them without killing them, as I do not believe in killing any beings?
When you find out what the reptilians have been up to, you'll change your tune about that.
I'm going to suggest, if you're not willing to actually do what it takes to defend, you might not want to consider a career as a warrior. There are people who are strictly defensive and use non-lethal means to do this. A lot of these are planetary defense forces or personal defense forces that hire out as bodyguards for people and stuff. You might consider becoming one of them. But I do know that generally in organizations like the Silver Legion, we accept the fact that sometimes we're going to return something to source for the better or for the best interests of everybody else involved.
Exactly. Are
Hello?
there Hello? You still?
Yeah,
everyone's still here. Tanaath, hang on. Let me just.
Yeah,
I'm still here.
Right.
Okay.
Are there equivalent central suns at the center of each universe?
There's an equivalent central black hole at the center of each galaxy and universe.
and on the other side of a black hole is a white hole.
Yeah. Science.
The vortex. Is that the vortex in Singularity? Mentioned by Nassim Harriman.
Well,
I don't know.
Singularity of a vortex singularity and what?
With Tanaath saying there's a black hole and on the other side there's a white hole, does that suggest there's a vortex on both sides and a singularity in the center?
I think so. All I know is you don't really want to go through one. You might survive the trip into the black hole, but usually coming out the other end gets you scrambled.
One of the things people don't understand is the duality of a conical vortex and the interrelationship between a black and a white hole. That's where the problem lies. If you have sufficient means to pass through a black hole, and you can very definitively and very accurately know when you are going to start proceeding through the white hole and adjust accordingly, you can come out on the other side of the whole thing without too many problems. I didn't say any. I said too many. There are problems associated with that go to the basis of creation, whereas it's like a door that you're not supposed to go through kind of thing. So it's not best. Okay?
Yes. Another question on the central sun. I had assumed that the central sun was the brilliant light at the core of the Milky Way galaxy, but some people say that it's located in the area of the Pleiades, which would place it within an arm of the galaxy.
No,
Is
it's
that
not in
true?
the Pleiades. It is not in the Pleiades. Yeah, this goes back to a little bit about what I was saying earlier about this carefully groomed notion of all things are Pleiades and all good comes from the Pleiades that was carefully planted by the Galactic Federation of Light. Sorry, it's just not the case.
Oops. Do any of you know anything about the god Krishna? In the Vedas, he claims to be the creator. Is he a fraud, or are the Vedas just incorrect?
Actually, Krishna is a creator god. I wouldn't say the creator, but a creator god. And the people, the race that the Hindu gods come from is based out of the Pegasus constellation. That's where they all come from.
Okay.
Works for me.
Tanaath?
Works for me.
I think this has been answered before, but we may have new ones. So, how would I know if I'm an incarnate or not?
Well, do you feel like one? Did you ever feel like you got off on the wrong planet? Do you have a feeling like you're here for a specific reason? Not just, along for the ride, as it were, but here on a mission? Do you sometimes have memories or flashes or a feeling that you've been something else, doing something else at another time? Chances are, if those things are true, you may be an incarnate. It is up to you to define your own identity, not up to anyone else.
Taking that a step further, there's another part to this. Many who do not understand the sciences involved, spiritually or otherwise, all have some things in common. The flashes are one. One of the other things that I find most common is the fact that these people have a supposition and or question that they cannot quite formulate. There is a thing there that they know is there, but they cannot define it, and yet it's like a splinter in your mind, to quote the Matrix, where you have an unanswered question. That usually goes to the veil of forgetfulness that has been dropped on people. And the easiest way to validate that I've found so far is to pick up a flash that has any kind of correlation to another flash. Generally, you have more than one. When you find two that have some part of it that is familiar in both of them, concentrate on one of them. Slowly concentrate and think and really cogitate. Use everything you got in terms of thinking about that and see if it doesn't open a little bit of something more up. If it does, most of the time you would be considered an incarnate. Now, as has been stated, your identity is yours and yours alone, partially to be decided and partially to be found in terms of the reality. So it's not real simplistic, but to understand that you probably are is that kind of unanswered question, something you're searching for and you can't find it. You can't quite get to the end of the road close enough to snatch it. Well, that usually is a good indication from what I know.
Yes. Right. what would happen to the cabal, and how would people's relationships change towards each other if we suddenly remembered all our previous incarnations as it was supposed to be in the first place?
Well, likely it'd be a lot harder for them to hide. It would be a lot harder for them to convince you that you are something you are not. It would be a lot harder for them to control you using false constructs of religion and other methods of mental control.
It's going to be a lot harder for people of any walk of life to lie to you and actually get away with it, because you will be able to automatically know, just like the ET, if someone's lying to you or not.
Sounds good to me.
But we're hoping that between the efforts of the global population and the ETs assisting, that the cabal will be dealt with prior to the transition. That is our collective intention.
Good. To Tanaath, I've heard you say that in 4D all of our ingested food will be used as energy by the body and will no longer need to eliminate as we do now. Approximately.
Yep, no more poop.
Nope. How long will it take for our bodies to upgrade to this process?
As soon as you hit 4D, it'll be that way.
Okay. When recruiting will start for the Silver Legion, how will I know where to present myself so I can register to be first in line?
Well, with any luck, we will be able to put up and announce recruitment stations all over the place. So hopefully we're able to operate a lot more freely on the planet and able to do that. That's our plan anyways, to put up recruitment stations everywhere, or at least make it so that people have access to them.
And remember, competition will be a thing of the past when we transition also. So there's no need to be first in line.
Choose for fun. A lot of us, compete for fun, but it's not a matter of being first anymore.
Yeah, totally. I mean,
a lot of our games are cooperative rather than competitive.
Yeah. I mean, there's even Unipeg games and games done with unicorns and Pegasus, and those are some of the fun ones that I can think of.
Right, I'm not too sure what this relates to, but question is, what is going on with the alien race in the Pacific Ocean that is said to colonize Africa in the future?
Okay, first of all, there's no alien race that's going to be colonizing Africa. That is misinformation. I've seen this come up in a couple different places. No, Africa is not going to be handed over to anyone. That is a cabal idea. We're not going to let it happen. Africa is going to remain for the people who wish to live there. There is not going to be any permanent alien colonies on Earth that are living here in replacement of Terrans. Not Africa, not China, not anywhere. That's just not going to happen. What's that, Sunfire?
I said not even under the surface.
No. Instead, this planet is going to be occupied by Terrans who are going to live on this planet, and there may be extraterrestrials or off-worlders who are living as individuals, either because they're doing work down here and helping out down here, or because they've married a Terran and want to live on this planet with their family and other things like that. As for races in the ocean, one of the primary races in the ocean right now who are helping is the Renara. And they're helping with cleaning up a lot of the attempts to murder the oceans that have been going on. And they're also helping evacuate cetaceans and like dolphins and whales.
Okay. Next question.
They're also, they're also, helping to protect the the cetaceans and all that from the damaging effects of the underwater sonar testing and that kind of thing. And also, just about anything else that would be damaging to the oceans and other bodies of water.
Okay. Can we switch timelines through meditation and help Syria?
Yeah, you can, but
I don't recommend it.
You can switch timelines through meditation, but I am not too sure how this translates into helping Syria. Are you planning on going to another timeline where Syria gets invaded, as in not this one? And in which case, you're probably better off staying in the timeline you're in and trying to help here.
Because if you go to a different timeline to do anything, you're only affecting that timeline. You're not affecting this timeline, and this would be the timeline that you want to affect.
Exactly.
Because this is the Meridian timeline.
Exactly.
If Obama gives the order to strike Syria, will there be an ET response?
We covered this earlier in the show today.
Yeah,
we got to duplicate there.
Also, I believe Obama's already tried to get the order, and the military said, screw off.
Nope.
Yeah,
well,
that's not going to happen.
So, the president can give all the orders he wants, but, the military and the American people have already said no. The British have already said no. The Russians have already said, where's your evidence? Because if you attack Syria, we're going to go kick Saudi Arabia's butt. There's
Sounds good to me.
What was that, Drake?
Well, there's two things involved in this. First, who is the idiot that made the United States the police force of the planet? That's first question. And I'm not going to attempt to answer that because I know who the idiots are. The second part of the question goes to this. I do agree that there should be some kind of a problem given to the people who would use either chemical or biological weapons. But I also disagree that we are the ones to do this. From the statesmanship involved that supposedly is so important, we're going to act independently. We are going to supposedly go over the heads of people who have relationships with these countries, specifically Putin and others. And I personally disagree with the idea. Now, this does not mean, and nasty as it might be, that these idiots will not try to carry out this plan. The question, and this is the heavy question and the question that definitely needs to be addressed, is it lawful on the international stage to screw with a sovereign country in a military manner? Under the laws that I'm familiar with, it is not. Under our Constitution, it is not. Under the Uniform Code of Military Justice, it is not. Therefore, I will suggest, I'm not telling anybody what to do, but I'll strongly suggest that our military stand down and tell these turkeys, no. Bring the politician out of his fat boy chair, tell him to come down and throw hand grenades. See how far they get. It is interesting, and this is the history of war, that everybody that has the idea that we got to go and do something like this never goes themselves. Little kids with the silver spoon in their mouths, the sons and daughters of the senators and congressmen, don't got to go, among other things. And I do personally take issue with that. The third part of this was the statement I made at the beginning of the show, and it is of great importance to everybody out there who might take issue with or be concerned about any action regarding Syria, and that is that all of the nations who find the idea of use of biological and or chemical weapons stand up and say so publicly. And I'm not talking about the dog catcher. I'm talking about a head of state or the equivalent thereof. Do you agree with the use of it? If not, then there should be some definitive action. Now, here's the other part. In any kind of question, you have to have proof when you're going to use forces that result in capital punishment when there is any loss of life. When that proof comes through, and only then should any kind of action of that nature even be considered. And this is I have been for years politically oriented in a humanistic manner. The mistreatment that has been meted out and given by the so-called saving forces and graces of powers, etc., hasn't materialized. The same people who were starving before still starve now. So, until we understand that the power being used may not be the answer, and those who would use it obviously have no intention of getting their hands dirty or putting themselves in danger, then I would suggest the answer be no. That's my spiel.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, it's not our job to get involved in a civil war in a sovereign country. And if I remember correctly, Putin pointed out that military response is only legal in the cases of self-defense or under permission of the UN. And quite honestly, I've seen more substantiated proof that the cabal-backed rebels were the ones that were responsible for the chemical attacks, and absolutely zero proof or evidence that Assad had anything to do with it.
Doesn't mean he's a good guy, but it does mean that this is an artificial war for spurious reasons.
Distraction.
Well,
False flag, yeah.
You have to remember, at $1 million a piece, plus or minus, each missile fired has to be bought from somebody. I mean, it starts getting simple when you understand that the arms dealers ain't selling the rockets they used to sell because they're not having the actions that they have had in the past. And, our sales are down. We need to ramp up the sales a bit. How can we do that? We need somebody to shoot at somebody. Bingo.
Yeah. And this is the perfect time for the military and the militia to stand up, put your foot down, and legally remove the president and the Senate and the House from office.
Ouch.
Yeah. Okay, on that note, next question. And do it quickly, please. It is my understanding that the alien named Lucifer is off planet and has been for a while. If true, did he escape or was he caught and punished?
Well, I can assure you that the being that got tagged with that name has been adequately punished for the crimes that he actually committed, which are not all of the crimes that are attributed to him.
I agree.
Is Lucifer Enki or an Anunnaki?
He did have an incarnation as Enki, and he does. He has regrets from that time because he did not always do the things he should have. But in the end, he did end up helping support the Terran rebellion against his own people. Yeah. So, while he's a mixed bag, this guy. He's done things that are completely effed up. But on the other hand, Enki helped lead the rebellion. he's done things that are completely messed up, but on the other hand, he often makes up for it by doing things that are really, really good in compensation when he's discovered that he's done something wrong. He's been turned into this a cautionary tale for Terrans and turned into this boogeyman for Christians, and it's just the actual being is neither. He's just a guy who makes bad decisions, spectacularly bad decisions, and then makes up for them in equally spectacular ways.
Question for Drake. I have a friend who is like a family member who lives in West Virginia and speaks and believes he has seen Mothman. Have you ever heard of this entity in West Virginia or anybody else? Anywhere else, sorry.
Yes, I have. Two stories on that. First of all, it's a supposed screw up in terms of a genetic mix. In other words, it was bred by accident. It's sort of like when you get two different breeds of dogs together, you get something different. And that supposedly is a part of one of the stories. The other story is that there were, and supposedly still are, shapeshifters from the Indian tribes, the ancient Indian tribes, who have a tendency to shift into this being in terms of being able to cause their longevity to extend. Okay? The problems that people have with it is, first of all, there's very, very few evidences. Secondly, there's almost no pictures. And third, there's been hunting parties that have been totally unsuccessful. This is the same legend, myth, trickster stuff that you might want to call Bigfoot, although these entities are real, and I'm not saying that they're not, okay? Even a decent black bear can outwit most hunters. Most of them know the territory much better. That's first. Number two, why is it people want to go out and play with these things or hunt them? Now, if it's a visit, there's usually a reason for the visit. Man has had a tendency to destroy the ecological basis in terms of things that other things eat. The wild goats and the wild horses and wild cattle are gone from West Virginia, so now you have mountain lions visiting the goat pens. Now you have bears that will, if they can, take down a deer if they can catch one. That's not too abnormal, but as man thinks that the goat is worth the life of the mountain lion or the bear, supposedly he is correct, whether he really is or not. Consequently, we have these problems. Now, I will suggest that person send us an email so that I can get in touch and we can go from there. I've had experiences with these critters, and I am extraordinarily telepathic and will answer as much as I can any kind of questions and possibly contact the entity. Do you want to call it Mothman? Do so. It could be very simply a humanoid leather wing. Nobody knows because there's no I haven't ever seen a picture. Nothing that was accurate. I get a flash of the eyes. That's it. So we could maybe take a little trip and see what happens. Right?
Drake, is the first example you give, the genetics, is that something to do with Montauk?
No, not so much Montauk. Montauk had to do more with times and reality.
Okay.
I butted in for Drake. But yeah,
okay.
The genetic experiments were a different call sign.
Yeah,
yeah.
As I said, two breeds of dog, you get a different dog. It's that's sort of a, from what I understand, that's sort of a genetic problem. Okay.
Yeah. It's just that there's been a lot of very, very strange creatures washing ashore very close to the Montauk site.
Well,
that has to do with
more from Plum Island.
That's due to the genetic laboratory over there, and those freaking idiots that don't have a clue as to what they're doing, and think they are God and can play with anything. Now, here's how it works, and this is the best explanation I've heard and the most accurate one. In the genetic modification, you have a specific target targeted with a specific item. The problem is that you have something similar to a shotgun in terms of your injection, in our injection process. And what happens is when you fire that shotgun, the pattern is random. 9 times out of 10, the random portion of the pattern unintentionally causes severe problems on a genetic basis. The problem you have with GMOs is not that they've been genetically modified so much, but the fact that they have at the same time created what are called neutral genetics. This is like a stem cell and can morph into just about anything it feels like it wants to. In other words, if you got heartburn at the time, maybe you'll grow a new esophagus. You got a headache, maybe you get a new brain. I mean, this is how squirrely these things are. So these
uncontrolled potential.
Yeah, and the problem is that in your digestive system, you're supposed to break these things down into components. Well, the problem is that this thing is mutated into the components that you break down. Or it will decide it's going to grow in the intestine. You want to cause some problems, think about that. I mean, this is the kind of tampering where man has no clue, but he's doing it anyway. And making money at it, too, I might add. Sorry.
Okay. This person has noticed there have been temporary stands set up giving away free phones and minutes. Will this be a way for the ETs to communicate, or will they use telepathy?
Yeah, I don't know. I can't answer that one. They're probably going to attempt to use face-to-face communication before telepathy because they already know from experience in trying to contact us, and our telepathic abilities have been well used and are a bit more practiced than average. They already know that for most Terrans it's pretty unreliable at best. So they're going to probably prefer to use face-to-face communication methods that are not easy to ask yourself if you really heard that or if you got it right.
Right, yeah. Being in communications, I know for a fact that they'll be using face-to-face vocalized communication methods and contact methods.
Above all, they want to be clear. They want to be clearly understood. They don't want to leave it to misinterpretation and chance.
Okay.
They won't be using technology to contact people, except maybe like a radio announcement or announcement on TV, quite possibly. But it will be face to face, not over cell phones. Usually, from what I understand, the free cell phones and free minutes are government programs or government sponsored programs. You think it's bad enough that all the spying they're doing now? Wait until they got one of their own cell phones in your hand.
The irony of giving free phones away, and yet they stop people getting free food out. But that's the way they operate.
Yeah.
Right. Can any of you
contract.
Yeah. Can any of you share your opinion regarding the Cassiopean memory complex that has been communicating with Laura Knight Jadzik via Ouija board for the last 20 years? Most of their information matches yours, but I always get a negative feeling.
There is a lot. Okay. As we've mentioned before, a spoonful of truth helps the bullcrap go down. So yes, they do say a lot of stuff that is true. But it's the poison pill you got to watch out for. And Laura Knight Jadzik is well known for having a couple poison pills there. And you're not the only one to get a distinct impression that there's some negativity there. You would also not be unwarranted in this impression.
Okay. Are there any spacecraft being built by Terran without the assistance of aliens or re-engineered ships?
Well, yeah, there's some people who are working on building their own anti-gravity devices and faster-than-light and over-unity devices. I'm not well informed about who's doing what, as most of the smart ones have kept themselves quiet so they don't get knocked off. But
the military has had and has been building in conjunction with the Air Force and NASA spacecraft that are reverse engineered for years. Now, the only problem is that upon an emergency landing, certain portions of the technology is erased or deleted in one form or another.
Mm-hmm.
So this makes these aircraft or craft rather limited in what they can do.
I do think, Drake, that he was wondering about stuff that wasn't planted, or she, could have been a she who asked.
Yeah.
But, about stuff that was not reverse engineered or planted. Yes, there are independent Terrans who are inventing Terran craft.
Yep.
Okay. With that, Drake, would you like to say anything? Getting close to the end.
I know several of the people that this person's referring to, and yes, they're being quiet, they're being careful, and they're watching what they do so that nobody knows. There's only a few who have the means and capability of doing so, and those are well known. So they're not really hiding as well as they'd like. I would like to see, or rather would like to see, the advance of things that can nullify present technology in such a manner that the powers that would like to continue can't use their powers against us. And that's basically where I stand on that.
Okay, thanks for that, Drake.
I got a closing comment, since we're coming up to the end here.
I've got one more thing to ask.
Okay, let's hear it.
Are all positive ETs as friendly and polite as Tanaath and Sunfire?
Oh my God, I would say some of them are a lot more friendly and polite than I am. I can be a little rough around the edges. I am a warrior.
I wanted to say that too. I know there's one of the members of Silver Legion that we call him the cuddle puppy, and he will literally run up to anybody and just hug them and is just really, really snuggly.
Yeah, there are. Most of them are as polite and friendly as we are. Some of them are a lot more polite and friendly than we are. They are individuals, remember that.
Yes.
But as a group in general, they're pretty nice people.
Yeah, totally.
So you wanted to finish with something, Tanaath?
Yeah, I just got a little comment for the pilots of the two fighter jets that gave me a little hello loop the other day. I don't know if you saw it, but I waved back. Hi.
Okay. All right. Thanks for everybody joining us this evening. I hope you all enjoyed it. And we'll be back on Sunday with Drake's Vital Update. My name is Thomas Williams, and I bid you a good night.